This is an original copy of the finished mystery. It's the Watchtower, basically. It's how our information was released during a critical time, World War I. And you see the Watchtower look like this. The information coming from God's organization. This was in such bad shape I had to sleeve it. And this is March 1918. And you'll see the Watchtower symbol. There are crosses there on the Watchtower. And you'll see a remark about our troops and somewhere. And so they weren't clear on involvement in the war at that time. You even see here symbols of war there, and the cross and the crown right there. 1918, as the war was raging on. And you can see this is an original copy. It's in very, very old copy. Full of pictures, though. This was something else to read. Here, 1918. And they were big and they were long. This is 8.5 by 11, you'll see. And we see a lot of information in here. A lot of things to take in. There we see one of the symbols from Revelation and the interpretation at that time. Here you see kind of a comic strip, The Tavern Inquiries, The Way to Heaven. So you see different religions talking about different ways of getting to heaven. Here you see seats are free, no collection was never Babylon's slogan. So you see here a preacher with a gun and a collection plate. That was evidently a big issue at that time. So Jesus is censoring false religion here. But even back then they were talking about the downfall. Babylon was falling. This talked about Revelation. There's a lot of from Ezekiel and Revelation, I think. There's Pastor Russell in the Critics' Den. He had a lot of critics back in his day. He had a lot to do with Babylon the Great falling in his day. Very old document here from 1918. People tearing down the Bible, I take it. And here's speaking of, there's Judah. And here's the plan for the temple area. This is Ezekiel's vision. And more. So there's a lot of Revelation and Ezekiel explained by this publication. And advertisement for Studies in the Scriptures. So after you read the Watchtower, you was encouraged to start a Bible study. Or even this book, Pastor Russell's sermons, you could study, you could listen, you could read his sermons at that time. So that's the finished mystery. This is the book that helped to bring my grandfather into the truth. According to the story, he had his mother send him pages of it to him while he was in World War I, back in those early days. Next was the studies in the Scriptures. The Watchtower was concentrated into these books. Here you see a deluxe edition, very nicely crafted. You see the Divine Plan of the Ages, and it's leather bound. You can see the cross and crown end sheets. Very nice photo of C.T. Russell in here. And this is a 1924 edition. Of course, the copyright for this is 1886. So this was the first of the volume. And this one had an insert Divine Plan of the Ages here. You could pull out and you could examine the epics that were studied, and they were gold. It's hard to tell on these, but they were gold embossed, and they had gold and red marbling both. So they were a nice little volume there, leather bound. Of course, the studies in the Scriptures were very widespread. Here you see probably the most common one. It has the sun disk on there. And see, this one had the insert at the front of the book for the Divine Plan of the Ages. And this is a 1912 edition. And let's see, for the same 1886 copyright. Very many of those are made. A lot of the old Kingdom Halls had these in there. I picked these up at bookstores along the way. Here's another one, had a little different look to it. No sun disk. This is a 1904 edition. Again, it has the Divine Plan of the Ages in the front. And this one is 1886 copyright. That's series 1. And they had compact editions too. This one is very nice material, cloth, I guess, and very durable. Had the pyramid on the front page. That was very popular in the day. That brought a lot of people's interest. Today we do the same. Try to get people interested. Here's 1920 is the edition, this one, and for 1891 copyright. And talks back then, I noticed talking about parousia back then. A lot of interesting things, pictures, lots to, this one is the New Creation. There you see the sun disk, and you can see this was full of information for the anointed. Very helpful back in those days. Oh no. After the studies in the scriptures, the Watchtower was concentrated into these books. Many people call these the rainbow books. You see, they went to a beautiful, instead of just burgundy, they went to these beautiful colors. This one here is very well known, the Harp of God. And to remind you that the information in these books did come from the Watchtower. On the back of each book was stamped a WT, reminding you this is from the Watchtower. And of course, they stamped the Divine Plan of the Ages on every book, top and back. And this one is dated, notice it's by J.F. Rutherford. And it is a 1928 edition, copyright 1921. And there was a lot of variety. Not every book was the same. You see, here's another Harp of God. Looks quite different. So there's a lot of variety back then. Moving forward, you'll notice here's the next one in the series, Deliverance. This beautiful stamped book. Again, the Divine Plan of the Ages and the Watchtower stamped on the back. This one was copyrighted 1926 by J.F. Rutherford. And again, I won't point out this, but there's really not a lot of pictures to look at back in those days. There's a few. Creation. Certainly that was an important topic that needed to be covered. And so you see, once again, this one has a B, I think that's a BSA, Bible Students Association. So back in those days, they weren't called Jehovah's Witnesses, and you see the Divine Plan of the Ages stamped on it. This one for this is, let's see, copyright 1927, again by J.F. Rutherford. Not a lot of pictures in there. People were really big readers back then. And let's see what's next here. Government. Again, Divine Plan of the Ages still stamped on the front. Here, the Watchtower stamped in the back. This one, let's see, 1928 by J.F. Rutherford. And this one again, it's got the Watchtower stamped in the back of it. Reconciliation, prophecy, looks the same. Prophecy is very important to us. Vindication. This one is 1931. And it, once Watchtower stamp still on there, very beautifully, beautiful back here. And this, you see, that stayed, it changed. Yeah, there's the Watchtower stamp again. Here's another one, riches, preparation. I see they lost the Divine Plan of the Ages stamp by the 30s. And light. Here's Revelation 1:13. I'm guessing this book talks about Revelation. One of these is about Ezekiel. And stamped on the back with that symbol again. Still see the Watchtower symbol stamped on the back. There's one all about Jehovah. There's the Ark of the Covenant. This one This is dated 1934. So this is getting into the time period of World War II. Some of these books you don't see around, maybe because they were burned. There was a lot of book burning of Jehovah's Witnesses literature in downtown Winston-Salem back in those days. Here they did away with the Watchtower stamp and the Divine Plan of the Ages stamp, and now saw that symbol in the songbook. This is 1939, and here's religion, and this one is dated 1940, in the heat of the war. Now we have children. This was intended to be a child's book for children, a little easier to understand. This was dated 1941, and again, there's not very many pictures, just a few here and there. I think I saw one there, kind of got by me there. You see, it is the type is larger, a little bit bigger for children to read. There's a picture. So there was a few pictures in there. So that was for children. And there's a few others I have here. I won't go into them, but you get the idea. From then on, this format, this size of book was what we used thereafter. And all our Watchtower information was condensed into these books so we could study them at our book studies. The Photodrama of Creation is a slide projection and movies shown at many theaters around the world. A lot of people got the truth through this method. My grandfather evidently got the truth in 1914 from the Photodrama of Creation. There's many slides. I'll try to show those to you later, but if you went to see the movie in a cinema back then, you would get this Photodrama of Creation book. It's very nice, very nicely made, beautiful gold end sheets, and this is the scenario. It says scenario of the Photodrama of Creation, and it would give the history of the Bible through photos. Today we have moved into a visual area. Back then a lot of it was books, just paper books with letters on them. But even back then, in 1914, the need for visual media was profound. It had this Photodrama of Creation. These videos and slides had a profound effect on people so they could visualize it. Of course, today we've come a long way. Virtually everything is visual anymore. There's Dante's Inferno is even shown in here. All the stories in the Bible are told one after another. There's Satan and his throne is shown. Noah's Ark. There's a mammoth found. So there's, I think that's Egyptian hieroglyphics. They were really big on Egyptian stuff back then. Here's from Adam to Moses genealogy, and back then Egyptians stuff had started to be found and became extremely popular. And you see here, it was very popular, pyramids and all that paleontology, archaeology, anthropology. So for people who were looking for the truth, they could, there was a lot of new information. I won't go through this whole thing. It's pretty lengthy, but just to get an idea, you can see that the scenario showed each picture and what it was. So when you left, you could meditate on what you had seen, even relive what you had seen. There's David and Goliath. So I've gone through quite a bit here. King David. This is a huge undertaking. Daniel's visions. Daniel in the lion's den and the significance of that. Jonah. There's Molech, prototype of the torment deity. Valley of Hinnom. And into the Christian age. Luther, the Reformation, Satan, how he operates today even. Socialism. Oh, and it came with a photo even of C.T. Russell. By the end of 1914, some 9 million people in Austria, Europe, New Zealand, and North America had seen the Watchtower Society's presentation, The Photodrama of Creation, free of charge. The 8-hour program in 4 parts consisted of motion pictures, slides synchronized with voice and music. Both the slides and the films were hand-colored. The photodrama was designed to build up appreciation for Bible and God's purpose as set out in it. Highlights include the unfolding of a flower and the hatching of a chick, captured on film by means of time-lapse photography. And I was bequeathed by my father a copy of the Photodrama of Creation, its own slides. There's the story of how it came to my father. Originated a long trip till he got here. Here, as I spoke about earlier, here's the scenario. Everybody got one of these who went to the video. And so the condition of the slides that I have is very poor, and also some of these other antiquities was bequeathed to my father because I had an interest in them at the time. But here you can see some of the slides that I have. It can take quite a long time to go through them all, at least an hour. I don't have any of the videos, of course. But the point I want you to see is that they were in color. I'm going pretty fast because there is a lot of them. As I mentioned before, my dad found a newspaper, 1914 newspaper, that included an advertisement for the Photodrama of Creation, and he knew that my grandfather used to go downtown for entertainment, and so he connected the dots that this must be how he got the truth initially. And it finishes up with Revelation. Here's C.T. Russell on stage. And that's the Photodrama of Creation. These are some bound volumes from starting in 1941, and you see how they looked back then. They had the Vision of Revelation, the Wheels Within Wheels, and Heaven, and you see the Watchtower symbol starting in 1941, and they came out in various colors, different color every month. Not a lot of pictures, but this continued on just like this up until, and these are all the same pretty much. They all have basically the same thing in them. Up until, here we go, 1948 to 1950. And so still the same format you see. And 1948, and this moves on into the beginning of the 50s. So where did Jehovah's Witnesses come from? Well, basically from the Bible. They just took the doctrines from the Bible and unlearned all the other doctrines that came from philosophy. To illustrate the challenge that they had, though, I have here the emphatic diglot, and both Jehovah's Witnesses and Christendom had the same issue, that this was not created by Jehovah's Witnesses. It had already existed. The branch, the Jehovah's Witnesses, did purchase the rights to it so they could publish it. This was a 1942 edition of the emphatic diglot. And in the emphatic diglot, and you'll notice it, one of the sources is the Vatican 1209 manuscript. I'll talk about that later. But here on page 8 of this one, it mentions the fact that the King James had a lot of errors in it. It says here it's been convicted of containing over 20,000 errors. And so to correct this, Christendom and Jehovah's Witnesses began referencing other Bibles, and you see here a list of some of them. This is not exhaustive by any means. I could have a whole video on Bible translation, but there was the original problem. There's too many errors in the King James Bible for it to be used, but unfortunately that was mostly what was available. Still is. This is one that my dad used. It was one in modern English in an attempt to read the Bible in our current language. Another one that was discovered was the American Standard Version. This is one of those. And this is another one of my dad's Bibles, American Standard. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses produced the American Standard. They got the rights for it. And so this is one that I obtained, and it says here originally it was 1901, but 1929. I got this one in much later, of course. The American Standard uses Jehovah's name, as you can see here. About any page you open to, it has Jehovah's name in it, which is a problem with the King James. Many translating errors are because they left out Jehovah's name and put the word Lord instead. So that was a big improvement. Jehovah's Witnesses began using that. Of course, originally, Jehovah's Witnesses had no choice but to use the King James Bible. Here's my mom's old King James Bible, and as you can see, she used it very extensively. In fact, for the first half of Jehovah's Witnesses' existence, we used the King James Bible. And many people would say that Jehovah's Witnesses knew the King James Bible better than anybody else does today. Here's my dad's King James Bible. Again, that was what was used by all Jehovah's Witnesses for a big part of our existence. And Jehovah's Witnesses continue to produce the King James Bible. Here's one I got produced by the Jehovah's Witnesses in 1986. So they continue to produce the King James Bible so that we could use it in our ministry. But to solve that problem, as I mentioned, there was many translations that were consulted so that they could clean up those translating errors. And starting in the 1950s, they began producing the New World Translation. And this is a 1955 original, released at a convention probably. Here's another one. This one, let's see, 1957. And so they were gradually released so that we could have a really good translation of the Bible in modern English. Here we see their showed a picture of the temple in Solomon's day. So this is a really useful. It was full of, you see it had the cross references there in great detail throughout. Large print, thick paper, and as you can imagine, these started stacking up, and when they did, you ended up with this. Yes, and this was initially used. It's got the same end sheets as the condensed version did. So they realized they needed to condense this thing, so they condensed the Bible, thinner paper, smaller margins and type, and eventually they condensed it down into the New World translations that we use today. Here are some of the Bibles that you can use. This one is the New Oxford Annotated Bible. This is a scholarly Bible, not used by Jehovah's Witnesses, but it is used by Christendom, much better than the King James. The Living Bible, Jehovah's Witnesses produced this. They didn't write it originally, but they reproduced it, I should say, starting in 1972, and it's in Living English. So trying to get to the way that we talk today, so it makes sense. Here's the Tanakh, not used by Jehovah's Witnesses, except maybe in helping in translation. It's the how the Bible, if you translate it from Hebrew into English, what it would be like. Very useful. Also, Jehovah's Witnesses reproduced this one too, the Rotherham Bible. The Rotherham Bible just is not by Jehovah's Witnesses, but just like the New World Translation, it uses Jehovah throughout its text. However, Christendom was kind of divided on the use of the word Jehovah. The New Jerusalem Bible, another Bible, this I think was actually produced by the Catholics at one point, used Yahweh throughout, and you'll see it here all over the place. You'll see Yahweh, so you'll wonder why didn't they keep it in all their Bibles. Here's an 8 translation Bible. I used to use this. We could get an idea of what all the different translations say. We can compare them all. So here are some of the Bible manuscripts that were used to remove the errors in the later Bibles. These were the authoritarian 3rd and 4th century Greek manuscripts. Codex Vaticanus is the first one I have here, and here's what some of it looks like. See the Greek. Next, there's the Codex Alexandrinus. I'll show you a little bit of it. That's what it looks like. Codex Sinaiticus. And that's what it looks like. Westcott and Hort. This is what was used heavily in making the New World Translation, the Greek Scriptures. And got a lot of notes, but you see here it's a Greek word, one Greek word for an English expression, and then the Strong's Concordance number so you can look it up. Very accurate. And emphatic diglot, talked about that earlier. And kind of on a sidebar, I have a Bible here that I saw when I went to Jamestown, historical Jamestown. In their museum, they have this Lord de la Warr's Bible, St. Thomas West. It's a Bible he brought in 1519. He used it, you see, in the Jamestown colony back then. And this is a little information about that Bible. It was from the Erasmus Greek text, which was another authoritative text that was used. And if you wanted to see inside the Bible, it looks like this. Here is one of the concordances that C.T. Russell would have used, the Hebrew and Chaldee concordance. This was being used in 1866, so it was in existence well before Russell started his Bible study. This was readily available at the time. There you see the date, 1866. And there's a lot of information on how to use it. Here's the actual, get some idea what it actually looked like to him. Words in Hebrew and what they meant. So he could actually almost, you could really understand the words. It kind of, you know, when there was an argument about what a word meant, you could look it up, find out what it meant. And let's see, what else is in here? This goes on and on like this. And another one is in 1903. 1903, he could have started using the this Greek concordance of the New Testament. Let's see. I don't see the date, but it's the 1903 edition. And let's see, make it a little bit bigger. So you could look up words by their by Greek. So you have to find it in Greek, and then you could look it up here. As I mentioned earlier, C.T. Russell used the tools available, the concordances and the Bible dictionaries, to help him to clear up the errors in the King James Bible and in their beliefs. And here's a copy of the Strong's Concordance. This is typical of the thing that he would have used. I think he used a different one from this one. I think this one was first edition was in 1894. So he would eventually have had access to this. You could look up any word in the Bible like hell and find every occurrence of it, and then you could find out what the Bible says instead of what Greek philosophy says about hell. Eventually, Jehovah's Witnesses produced their own concordance, and that was, let's see if there's a date here, 1973. And so there's a very nice way, much smaller, easier, more concise way of looking up words in the Bible and finding out how they are used, what they really mean. A Bible lexicon or interlinear became necessary, and so Jehovah's Witnesses began learning Greek so they could get to the bottom of what the Bible was saying. And here's talking about transitions. You can download the Greek interlinear now in your JW library, and you can follow along in Greek today. Make sure everything what you're reading is what the Greek scriptures, the original Greek says. This was produced in 1985, and you see here that Jehovah's Witnesses made it easily available to everyone to follow along in Greek, the New World Translation. So there's no, so translating errors, you can remove the translating errors yourself, and that was a big benefit for this. Of course, Christendom worked on this, had the same problem, and here's Scott's lexicon, one of the better ones, and it does the same thing. It shows you, this is list of Greek words, so you can find the Greek word, with this, and then look it up in here and see what Bible scholars say those words mean. So lexicons became very useful. Here's a Bible dictionary. Again, it makes it possible to, this is the Vines. Let's see, the date on that is 1981. And again, you can look up the words that are in the Bible and get a full explanation of how it's used in Greek times. Here's Thayer's, another very good Greek English lexicon. Look up words and find out what the words really mean. Of course, all of these things, a lot of this is now, you can get apps on your phone that do all this. You don't have to have these books. This is another authoritative lexicon, the Walter Bauer, where you can get a good understanding of what the Greek terms mean. And what about Hebrew? Well, there's Hebrew interlinears also, and here's one. You can look up, read it in Hebrew, if you can read Hebrew, and so you don't have to take the New World Translation's word for anything. You can find the Hebrew word, and here it is in English, and you can follow along. Of course, this was produced by Christendom, not by Jehovah's Witnesses, but you'll see throughout the Hebrew text the name Jehovah, where it had been taken out of the King James. And you'll find it in many places in the Hebrew text. There it is again, in the Hebrew text. So these lexicons and Bible dictionaries were some of the tools that were used to get to the bottom of the matter, to get to the truth, and unlearn all these false doctrines. And here we see one of the early songbooks. Zion's Glad Songs of the Morning is this one, February the 1st, 1896. And this is what it looked like back in those days. Several different songs. As you can see, the theme was usually about the anointed. That was 1896 is when that started being used. Here is the later songbook. This one is 1902, and this is just a scanned version. And this one just has the scanned text. Here we have some of the early songbooks. The oldest copy that I have in my possession is this one, Kingdom Service Songbook. And we see a lyre there, and copyright 1944. This was property of the Winston-Salem Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. I guess it was discarded, and you can see some of the titles there. And this is became obsolete, I suppose, and we went to this one. This is the one I remember using as a child, the green one. This one is dated 1950, but we were still using it in 1963 or later. I remember using this one. And then the next one came along as the Pink Songbook, and it was dated, that's my name when I was little, and let's see, 1966. So I guess when I was 6 years old they switched to this one. And then later on we got this brown one, and this one is dated 1984. So, and of course our books are up, these songbooks are updated regularly. At one point our Bible study was being concentrated into records. These are 75 by Judge Rutherford. They are heavy things, and these were played at the doorstep. My dad used to have big stacks of these, but when he moved, he told us to get whatever we wanted, and I don't know, I think he discarded the rest of them. They really have no value today. Finally, there was published a plethora of publications as a result of Bible study to share the newly discovered information and unlearned information with the world. Many tracts, brochures, pamphlets, just so many. There's no way to describe them all. This is the book I studied as a child, book study, It's talked about Babylon the Great, Revelation. Jehovah's Witnesses used to be a very scholarly group. We used to study this every week. It's a scholarly book about the Bible and its accuracy. You should look at the back of it. In the back few pages, it explains where the New World Translation came from, the authoritative Greek sources. We don't do that anymore. The Aid book was a encyclopedia, very, very dense, densely packed encyclopedia. And this was a big bombshell. Jehovah's Witnesses totally understand the book of Revelation. Very fine. And if you want more on the history of Jehovah's Witnesses, that's what this book is all about. And in the very back, there is a year-by-year description of things starting in 1870 and going forward. All the same things that are in this video are described in the very back of this book. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it's been encouraging for you.